This is a CBS 4 News special report.
Good afternoon. I'm Lee Davalos. We have some breaking news to bring you right now. A plane chartered by Democratic Senator Paul Wellstone of Minnesota has crashed. A Department of Transportation spokesperson said there are 8 fatalities from that plane crash, but right now it is still not known whether the senator was on board. Now, the plane is described as a twin-engine turboprop, and it crashed in Eveleth, Minnesota, just east of the airport. Again, a plane chartered by Senator Paul Wellstone, Democratic Senator of Minnesota, has crashed. Still not known whether he was on board, but 8 fatalities have been reported. We'll bring you much more on this story first at 5. Now back to regular programming.
For more on this breaking story, go to CBS4News.com or our news partners at thesunsentinel.com.
This is a CBS News special report. I'm Mika Brzezinski reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York. Good day. We are interrupting the network because we have received information from Minnesota that Senator Paul Wellstone has been killed in a plane crash near Eveleth in Minnesota. Now, that is confirmed by campaign aides of Senator Wellstone, who was running for re-election and was in a very tight race in Minnesota. Let's go right to CBS News correspondent Bob Orr in Washington for more information on the plane and who was on board. Bob.
Mika, this plane was a small plane, a twin-propeller Beechcraft King Air carrying 8 people. We are told by federal authorities that the plane was chartered this morning by Senator Paul Wellstone. On board the plane, Senator Wellstone, his wife of 39 years, Sheila Eisen, a daughter of the Wellstones, 3 campaign workers, and 2 pilots. Federal sources tell me that the plane went down in light snow near Eveleth, Minnesota. The plane wreckage has been found about 2 miles from the airport, and I can confirm that all 8 people on board have died in the crash. Senator Wellstone was 58 years old, a 2-term Democrat, currently in a re-election campaign against the Republican Norm Coleman. Most recently, the polls had Senator Wellstone ahead by 6 points. He was an accomplished student and an athlete, had a PhD in political science, taught at Carleton College in Northfield, Minnesota for 21 years before leaving the teaching spot for the Senate. Among political pros, he was known as a classic liberal. He worked, among other things, to raise the minimum wage, to work on seniors' pension funds, and most recently, we're told, voted against the Iraq authorization, giving the president the power to go to war in Iraq. But repeating at this point what we do know, a small plane chartered by Minnesota Democratic Senator Paul Wellstone left this morning from St. Paul, Minnesota, en route to Eveleth, Minnesota. That's a small town in the upper reaches of the state. And this is also a sad irony. I am told that the Wellstones, their daughter, some campaign aides, were en route to Eveleth, Minnesota to attend the funeral of the father of one of the state representatives in the Minnesota Democratic Party, Rick Avina. But again, federal authorities say the crash wreckage has been found a couple of miles from the airport. The weather conditions may have played a role, but at a minimum at this hour, we know that all 8 people on board that plane, including Minnesota Democratic Senator Paul Wellstone, have died. Mika?
Bob Orr in Washington, and also to clarify, we are hearing from campaign aides of Senator Paul Wellstone that they are sure he was aboard that plane that crashed. And of course, Bob Orr telling us 8 people on board that plane, all 8 have perished. Stay with CBS News for more on this developing story, and of course a full report tonight on the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather. I'm Mika Brzezinski, CBS News, New York.
For news 24 hours a day, go to CBSNews.com. AOL keyword CBS News.
Teens. This is a CBS News special report. I'm Mika Brzezinski reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York. We have an update now on Minnesota Senator Paul Wellstone. Wellstone's campaign manager confirms now Wellstone was aboard a chartered turboprop airplane that crashed earlier today in Minnesota. All 8 passengers on board, including the 58-year-old liberal Democrat, were killed in the crash. Senator Wellstone was in the middle of a grueling re-election campaign. He was on his way for a funeral for a state lawmaker. We know that the plane was a Beech King Air 100, 8 people on board in all, and all 8 on board that plane perished. We're going to have more on this on tonight's CBS Evening News with Dan Rather. For now, I'm Mika Brzezinski, CBS News, New York.
For news 24 hours a day, go to cbsnews.com. AOL keyword CBS News.